People always say the most dangerous secrets are the ones hiding in plain sight. But no one ever imagines those secrets could be hanging right on the wall, smiling back at you with bright colors, delicate brushstrokes, and a tiny blinking light buried under the canvas. That was the truth Emily Turner discovered on a quiet Tuesday morning, the day she learned that her husband's office wasn't decorated with charity paintings at all. It was decorated with surveillance. Emily didn't plan to find it. It wasn't some dramatic movie moment. She was just dusting the frames, straightening them the way she did every 2 weeks. But when her fingertip brushed across the back of the painting drawn by Lily, her husband's mistress's daughter, she felt a strange bump. A cold, metallic bump. At first, she thought it was a nail. Or a loose hook. Or maybe she was imagining things. But when she peeled the back paper just an inch, a small black device stared back at her. A recorder. Hidden deep. Still warm. Her heart didn't pound, it froze. Her breath didn't shake, it stopped. Because now everything made sense. Her husband Daniel's sudden charity work. His late-night calls with artists. His insistence on having those exact paintings hung in the office. And the mistress, Rachel, who always pushed her daughter to make more. They weren't just paintings. They were microphones. And Emily realized something terrifying. Rachel wasn't only stealing her husband. She was stealing his company, his data, his deals, his entire life. And Daniel was too foolish or too guilty to see it. But Emily didn't scream. And she didn't confront him. She simply whispered to herself, "If you hide secrets in paintings, I'll bury your whole world inside them." Because Emily was not a weak wife. She was a silent storm. And she had just found the perfect place to strike first. This wasn't a story about betrayal. This was a story about someone who turned surveillance into punishment, and recordings into revenge. A story where the quietest person in the room becomes the most dangerous. And it all began the moment Emily touched the back of that painting, and realized she was holding the first piece of a conspiracy that would burn everyone involved, including the man she loved. Emily Turner had always believed that marriages didn't fall apart suddenly. Cracks arrived quietly. First like hairlines, then fractures, then open wounds. But over the past year, her marriage to Daniel became a house where half-truths echoed louder than honesty. She felt them everywhere. In the way he shut his office door, the way he guarded his phone, the way he complimented everyone except her. Daniel wasn't cruel. He wasn't violent. He wasn't even openly distant. He was worse, carefully absent. He smiled without warmth. He spoke without meaning. He loved without presence. The first sign came 6 months earlier, when he began talking about charity art programs he was suddenly supporting. Emily didn't question him at first. Daniel had always donated to causes. But this time, he spoke with rehearsed enthusiasm, as if reading from a script he'd practiced too many times. "It's important work, Em," he'd say, kissing her forehead the same way he always did when trying to end a conversation he didn't want to have. Then came the paintings. They arrived 2 at a time, bright, childish, almost annoyingly cheerful. Emily thought they were cute at first, the kind of drawings you'd proudly stick on a fridge but not frame in a corporate office. But Daniel insisted. "They're from a gifted girl," he explained. "Her mom runs the charity. It's good PR." Emily didn't know then that the mom was Rachel Whitman, a woman with a smile sharp enough to cut glass, a voice too sweet to trust, and a talent for slipping into another woman's life the way a snake slips under a door. But Emily learned fast. The changes in Daniel grew clearer. He shaved more often. He used cologne on days he didn't need to. His shirt smelled like someone else's perfume, something floral, expensive, and nothing like Emily's vanilla body spray. Still, Emily stayed quiet. She had learned long ago that silence was not weakness. Silence was strategy. Then, 2 weeks before she found the recorder, Emily heard something strange. She had gone to Daniel's office to bring him coffee. Through the door, she heard Rachel laughing, A soft, intimate laugh that didn't belong in a workplace. When she stepped inside, both of them froze like kids caught stealing. Rachel held a stack of paintings in her arms. Daniel's tie was crooked. And Emily knew. But she didn't say a word. Then came the morning everything changed. Emily arrived early to clean the office before a board visit. The paintings were dusty, crooked, carelessly hung. When she tried to adjust one, her finger hit something unnatural. A bump. A device. A secret. The universe holds its breath when a woman finally sees the truth. And Emily's world didn't just shift, it cracked. She peeled open the frame and stared at the recorder, still blinking red, still capturing every sound. "Why?" she whispered. Why would Rachel plant devices in Daniel's office? Why would Daniel let her? What were they really doing? She didn't know yet that this was bigger than love, betrayal, or jealousy. This was crime. Corporate theft. Conspiracy. Blackmail. But Emily didn't panic. Her fingers were steady, her breath calm, her mind frighteningly clear. She understood one thing instantly. Rachel wasn't stealing Daniel's heart. She was stealing his company, his future, his reputation. And Daniel, weak, blind, stupid, was walking straight into her trap. Emily stared at the recorder, and a cold smile touched her lips. "If you want secrets," she whispered, "I'll give you better ones." And for the first time in a long time, Emily felt powerful. She put the frame back. She cleaned the room. She turned off the light. And she walked out as if nothing had changed. Because this was the beginning. And Emily was already planning part 2. Emily didn't sleep that night. She lay awake beside Daniel, listening to the soft rise and fall of his breath, the same breath she had once found comforting. Now it sounded like a stranger breathing in the dark. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the tiny recorder hidden behind the colorful canvas. A child's painting. A child's hand-drawn sky. And beneath it, a tool used to destroy her life. Emily kept her face still, her breathing calm, her movements normal. But inside, her mind worked with a precision she didn't know she had. She was a wife, yes. But she was also a strategist now. A woman betrayed. A woman awakened. In the morning, Daniel acted as if nothing was wrong. He hummed while making coffee. He checked his emails. He left early. Important morning meeting. Emily didn't say a word. She simply watched him walk out the door, feeling something new inside her. A silence sharper than anger. A calm colder than revenge. A determination deeper than pain. By noon, she was in his office again. She locked the door behind her and stood in front of the paintings like a detective studying a crime scene. The paintings were bright. Sunsets, flowers, silly animals. The mistress's daughter, Lily, was only 10. Smart for her age. Talented. But she was being used by her mother, a woman who didn't just want Emily's husband. She wanted everything attached to him. Emily lifted each painting, running her fingers along the back. 2 more had devices. One was a tiny mic. Another was a slim strip that looked like a battery. None of this belonged in a child's artwork. None of this was legal. The mistress wasn't just committing an affair, she was committing corporate espionage. And Daniel, he was letting it happen. Whether by stupidity or guilt, Emily didn't know yet. But she would. She put the paintings back exactly as she found them. No dust disturbed. No frame crooked. It had to look untouched. If Rachel suspected anything, the entire plan would fall apart. And Emily wasn't going to ruin her chance at justice. She moved to Daniel's desk and opened drawers she hadn't touched in years. Contracts. Old deals. A stack of blueprints for upcoming partnerships. But the most interesting item was a new folder labeled Project Sunrise. Confidential. Emily didn't open it. Not yet. Something told her this would be the gold mine. The fragile heart of whatever Rachel was planning to steal. But Emily was patient. She had to build her trap slowly. Just then, her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. "He'll ruin you before you ruin him." Emily froze. Her heartbeat didn't race. It grew steady, like a drum warming for battle. She stared at the message, reading it again, noticing the pattern. No punctuation. Random spacing. A slight grammatical mistake. This wasn't Daniel. It wasn't a friend. It wasn't a stranger. This was Rachel. And she was warning Emily. Or threatening her. Or trying to keep her in the dark. But Emily wasn't scared. She typed back 2 simple words. "Try me." For the rest of the day, Emily played the role of the perfect wife. She cooked dinner. She cleaned the kitchen. She listened to Daniel talk about his charity event, with the fake smile she had mastered. But behind that calm, she was building her plan. Step by step. Layer by layer. Lie by lie. At midnight, when Daniel was asleep, Emily went to the guest room and opened her laptop. She searched for small hidden cameras that could be placed inside a painting, just like the ones Rachel used, but more advanced. Ones that captured video, not only sound. Ones with strong storage. Ones that could stream directly to Emily's phone. She ordered 4. Then 6 more. Then extra batteries, backups, tools. Everything she needed to build a trap inside the same innocent paintings Rachel had already used. But Emily's weren't for stealing. They were for exposing. She sat back in the chair, the soft glow of the screen lighting her face. Her reflection stared back, tired, betrayed, but focused. Stronger than she had ever been. "I'm not losing this," she whispered. Not to him. Not to her. And with that, the plan in her mind clicked into place. She wouldn't confront Daniel. She wouldn't confront Rachel. She would record them instead. The same way they recorded Daniel. But this time, Emily controlled the story. The next morning, she left early. She waited outside the charity center where Rachel worked. She watched Rachel walk out with her daughter, smiling like a woman with no consequences. People like Rachel believed they were untouchable. They believed wives were weak. They believed quiet meant broken. Emily's quiet was a weapon. She followed them for a full hour, mapping their habits, understanding their routines, learning the rhythm of their days. Every predator has a rhythm. Every liar has a shadow. And every mistress has a weakness. By evening, Emily had gathered everything she needed. Not proof yet, but knowledge. Knowledge of Rachel's movements. Knowledge of Daniel's guilt. Knowledge of the devices hidden in the walls. And knowledge of one truth. The woman who watches silently is the woman who strikes the hardest. Emily went home, looked at the paintings one last time, and whispered. The next morning, Emily woke before sunrise. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that made every small sound feel louder. She moved with purpose, silent steps, controlled breaths, a calmness that felt unnatural even to her. But inside that stillness, her mind was alive, sharp, and cold. Daniel was still asleep as she dressed and left the house. She didn't need excuses anymore. She didn't need to hide her movements. Daniel was too distracted with his secrets to notice hers. Emily drove straight to a small electronics shop 40 minutes outside the city. The kind of shop that sold niche surveillance tools to people who didn't want questions asked. The man behind the counter didn't smile, didn't greet her. He simply nodded when she placed the order confirmation on the counter. 10 micro cams. Black casing. Motion activated. Remote sync, the man said, reading the list. These are strong. Stronger than the ones people normally buy. Emily kept her voice steady. I need strong. He handed her a sealed box, heavy and dense. No receipts. No names. No trace. The kind of purchase people made when they were preparing for war, but a quiet war, fought in shadows. She drove home slowly, thinking through every step. Each second mattered now. One mistake and Rachel would sense danger. Mistress types always did. They were experts in secrets, experts in guilt, experts in reading tension in a room. But Emily wasn't giving her anything to read. When she reached Daniel's office, she locked the door behind her and set the box on the wooden conference table. She opened each tiny device, testing them one by one. They were perfect, small enough to hide in the corner of a frame, powerful enough to capture everything. Then came the real work. Emily removed one of the paintings from the wall, the one of the orange sun and the crooked house drawn with thin childish strokes. Lily's handwriting was on the corner, small and innocent. Emily traced it for a moment. A 10-year-old girl didn't deserve to be dragged into this. But her mother had already done that. Behind the painting was Rachel's recorder, glued carefully into place. Emily didn't touch it. Instead, she installed her camera directly above it, hiding the lens behind the tiny smudge of paint on the upper edge. From the outside, no one could tell. She placed the frame back and stepped away. One painting done. 9 to go. Hour after hour, Emily worked with the precision of a surgeon. Every camera was hidden exactly, every angle adjusted for sound and visibility. She left Rachel's devices untouched. If Rachel thought everything was normal, she wouldn't change her strategy. And Emily needed Rachel to continue her crimes. Because in the end, Emily wasn't just gathering evidence. She was building a trap. And the trap was almost ready. By late afternoon, all 10 paintings watched the room with invisible eyes. Emily sat in Daniel's chair and opened the live feed on her phone. The cameras synced instantly. The images were crystal clear. She could see every inch of the office, the desk, the door, the chairs, the paintings, everything. This office wasn't Daniel's anymore. It was hers. The first person to walk in would have no idea the walls had become witnesses. She didn't have to wait long. At 4:42 p.m., the door unlocked. And Rachel walked in. Alone. Emily watched through her phone as Rachel looked around the office with a confidence that made Emily's stomach tighten. This wasn't the behavior of a mistress sneaking into forbidden space. This was the behavior of someone who believed she owned the room. Rachel walked straight to Daniel's desk and pulled open the top drawer, the same drawer Emily had checked the day before. She didn't hesitate. She didn't look afraid. She acted like someone who had done this many times. Then she pulled out the folder. Emily held her breath. Rachel placed the folder on the desk and took out her phone. She snapped pictures of each page, quickly and professionally. This was not emotional cheating. This was corporate theft. Rachel paused halfway through and started talking to someone on the phone. Emily increased the camera volume. Rachel whispered, "Tell your buyer we'll have the product ready by next week." "Yes, I'll handle him. He trusts me. He always does." Emily's blood turned cold. Rachel wasn't stealing for herself. She was selling company secrets to someone else. A buyer. A partner. A criminal accomplice. And Daniel, weak or foolish, was helping her without knowing it. Rachel lifted the last page and smiled to herself. Then she said something that turned Emily's stomach upside down. "Once everything crashes, Daniel takes the blame. I'll make sure of that." Emily froze. The mistress wasn't just cheating. She wasn't just stealing. She was planning to destroy Daniel, professionally, legally, publicly. And then she laughed. A soft, evil laugh. "He really believes he's in love," she whispered. "Men are so easy." When she finally left the office, Emily stayed absolutely still in the chair. Not a blink. Not a breath. Not a sound. Because the truth had finally shown itself. Rachel wasn't the problem. She was the enemy. A woman with a plan. A woman without limits. A woman who used her own child's paintings to steal a man's life. Emily leaned back slowly and whispered to herself, "You want to ruin him. But you forgot about me." And just like that, the revenge became personal. Very personal. Emily drove home with the camera's live feed still playing on her phone. Every mile felt heavier, every second tighter, Because she wasn't just watching Betrayal anymore, she was watching a crime. A crime designed with precision. A crime meant to destroy not just Daniel, but everything he had ever built. And the worst part? He didn't even realize he was the target. By the time Emily parked in the driveway, something inside her had changed. Not cracked. Not broken. Transformed. She stepped inside the house with slow, quiet footsteps, the way a hunter returns from studying its prey. Daniel was in the living room, scrolling through his phone, pretending to be busy. He looked up with a small smile. "You're home early," he said. Emily nodded. "Just tired." He didn't notice her eyes, sharper than yesterday, colder than last week, deadlier than last month. He didn't see the storm coming. Weak men rarely do. While Daniel showered, Emily sat at the kitchen table and replayed the recordings. Every word Rachel whispered. Every picture she took. Every plan she voiced. Every detail of the betrayal. She watched it again. And again. Until she knew Rachel's voice better than she knew her own. Emily paused the video on Rachel's smug smile and whispered, "You tried to trap the wrong woman." Because Rachel wasn't just hurting Daniel. She was hurting Emily's family name, Emily's marriage, Emily's future, Emily's stability, Emily's entire life. And Emily wasn't going to cry. She wasn't going to beg. She wasn't going to leave. She was going to fight back. Her way. Clean. Calm. Cruel. The kind of revenge that doesn't raise a hand, just rearranges destiny. The next day, Emily took the day off work. She needed time. Not to rest, but to prepare. She opened a blank notebook and titled the page, "Plan to End Them All." Then she listed the 3 targets. Rachel, the mastermind. Lily's paintings, the evidence. Daniel, the fool who needed saving and punishing. She started writing steps, each colder than the last. Step 1. Gather more recordings. Rachel wasn't stupid. One recording wouldn't be enough. Emily needed hours, days, weeks. She needed Rachel to keep committing crimes inside that office. Step 2. Pretend to know nothing. Rachel had to feel safe. Safe people make mistakes. Step 3. Build forged deals. Rachel had a buyer. Emily would become the buyer. And Rachel would walk directly into the trap thinking she was about to earn millions. Step 4. Bring the entire board into a meeting. Rachel thought she would expose Daniel. But Emily would expose her. Step 5. Watch them destroy each other. The sweetest revenge was letting enemies eat themselves alive. Emily closed the notebook with a calm so eerie it felt supernatural. She was no longer a wife. She was no longer a victim. She had become the architect of their downfall. 2 days later, she put her plan into motion. At noon, she entered Daniel's office again. The cameras were already recording. She checked each angle, each wire, each device. Everything was working perfectly. She walked to the drawer Rachel had opened, pulled out the confidential folder, and took pictures of every page. She didn't steal anything. She didn't alter anything. She didn't break anything. She simply copied the blueprint of Rachel's plan. Then she crafted emails, fake emails, from a fake investor. Someone wealthy. Someone foreign. Someone greedy. Someone who would excite Rachel. Emily created the name. Michael R. Stone. Simple. Strong. Professional. Irresistible. She created a fake company. Stonebridge Capital Holdings. She created a fake offer. $5 million in upfront investment for Project Sunrise. If Rachel handled the delivery. Because greedy people only understand one language. Temptation. She sent the first email from a newly created account. Rachel Whitman. We have been following your work and believe you possess the skill and network to assist us. Project Sunrise seems promising. We are prepared to move forward. Please contact us privately. Michael R. Stone. Emily hit send and smiled. She wasn't exposing Rachel yet. She was hooking her. 3 hours later, Emily's phone buzzed. A new camera notification. She opened the live feed. Rachel was in the office again, this time pacing, nervous, excited, biting her lip as she read the email on her phone. She didn't even try to hide her expression. Rachel whispered into the air. Finally. Finally. This is it. Emily sat in her car outside the building watching the live stream. Her face stayed calm, but inside she felt the slow burn of satisfaction spreading through her chest. Rachel dialed someone, probably her partner or her teenage son. I told you, she hissed. This deal is huge. Millions. Once it's done, we don't need Daniel anymore. Emily leaned forward. And once it blows up, Rachel added, his name is on every document. Not mine. Emily's smile was thin and sharp. Good. She wanted Rachel confident. Overconfident. Stupidly confident. Confidence blinds criminals faster than fear. Emily turned off the feed and whispered, You dug this grave yourself. I'm just handing you the shovel. Late that night, Emily walked into the bathroom where Daniel was brushing his teeth. He smiled at her in the mirror, unaware of everything crashing around him. You okay? He asked. Emily nodded softly. Inside her head, she finished the sentence. You will be, when I'm done with both of you. Because revenge wasn't something you shouted. It was something you crafted. And Emily was almost ready to deliver the masterpiece. Emily woke with a strange calmness the next morning, a silence not of fear, but of control. It felt like the world was slowing down for her, bending around her plans. She didn't rush. She didn't panic. She moved through the house like someone who already knew the ending of the story and was simply walking toward it. Daniel left for work early, smelling of that same floral perfume that wasn't hers. But Emily didn't look at him with pain anymore. She looked at him the way a teacher looks at a foolish student, someone who didn't know a test was coming. Once he left, she sat at the dining table, opened her laptop, and continued building her trap. Step by step. Layer by layer. Lie by lie. She crafted the next email from Michael R. Stone, her fictional investor. Rachel. Your quick response shows professionalism. Before we proceed, I need confirmation of your ownership role in Project Sunrise. My firm cannot invest unless you have full access to the material. M. Stone. This wasn't just bait. It was a test. If Rachel was greedy, she would take the risk. If Rachel was reckless, she would take the credit. If Rachel was stupid, she would incriminate herself. Emily clicked send and leaned back, feeling a rush of dark satisfaction wash over her. Let the mistress run straight into the fire. By noon, Emily was watching the live feed again. Rachel entered Daniel's office with the excitement of a child about to open a present. Her heels clicked fast on the floor as she sat at the desk and typed furiously on her phone. Emily increased the camera audio. Rachel whispered while typing, Ownership? Easy. I'll say Daniel gave it to me. He's too blind to deny it. Then she typed, I have full control. Daniel trusts me completely. Emily nearly laughed. Rachel was digging her own grave, and she didn't even know it. A second later, Emily's fake investor replied, Excellent. I need your signature on the attached preliminary agreement. Once returned, we proceed with the first transfer. Emily watched as Rachel printed the file right there in Daniel's office, signed her name boldly, and even wrote, Co-owner of Sunrise Development. A title she didn't have. A title she stole with a pen. A title that would destroy her. Emily whispered to the screen. Perfect. Keep walking. At 2:17 p.m., Daniel entered the office. Emily watched the live feed closely. He looked stressed, tired, and somehow lost. Rachel didn't look like a mistress greeting her lover. She looked like a boss greeting her employee. Where were you? She snapped softly. Daniel stuttered. I had a meeting. She rolled her eyes. You're always late. Emily's jaw tightened. This wasn't love. This wasn't romance. This was manipulation. Rachel grabbed Daniel's arm and pulled him close. You need to focus, she hissed. The deal depends on you. The deal, Daniel repeated. Rachel's voice dropped. Project Sunrise. Our future. Emily watched his face shift. Confusion, fear, hesitation. He didn't know about any deal. He didn't know she was stealing. He was just a weak man in a bad storm. Rachel pressed closer. Just do what I say. Once I secure the money, we'll disappear. Emily's heart froze. Disappear? With Daniel? With millions she would get illegally? Rachel wasn't stealing the company. She was planning to steal Daniel's entire life, and then leave him ruined. Then Rachel whispered the final blow. And don't tell your wife anything. She's too dull to understand business. Emily didn't get angry. She didn't cry. She didn't feel hurt. She felt focused. Rachel had crossed the final line. That evening, Emily prepared the second phase of her revenge. She returned to Daniel's office with a small metal briefcase. Inside were 10 forged, harmless documents, fake contracts, fake proposals, fake partnership terms. They looked perfectly real but meant nothing. She placed them in the same drawer Rachel always opened. These documents were written exactly the way crooks wanted them. Promises of millions, fake offshore accounts, big opportunities too perfect to resist. Emily wasn't tricking Daniel. She was tricking Rachel. She placed her final forged document in the drawer. Stonebridge Capital. Final investment agreement. Value. $7.8 million. Signature needed. R. Whitman. Even the paper felt expensive. Rachel would bite instantly. Emily closed the drawer and whispered, "Take the money, Rachel. Take it all." Because tomorrow morning, Emily would bring the entire company board into one room. And Rachel would walk in thinking she had one. Only to find every email she sent, every document she signed, every word she said, every step she took, was recorded. And Emily now owned all the proof. That night at home, Daniel sat beside Emily at dinner, unaware that both of their lives were about to collapse, one by guilt, one by justice. "Emily," he said softly, "I feel like things are weird between us. Are you sure nothing's wrong?" Emily smiled gently, the kind of smile that made weak men believe lies. "Everything is fine," she whispered. Inside her head, she finished the real sentence. "Everything is fine. Because tomorrow, I end every lie you ever lived inside." Emily washed the dishes slowly, calmly, almost peacefully. Revenge was no longer a plan. Revenge was already happening. Tomorrow was the day justice would stop whispering and start screaming. By sunrise, the world felt different. Emily didn't feel nervous. She didn't feel scared. She felt ready, as if this day had been waiting for her, not the other way around. She dressed in a simple black blouse, tied her hair back, and gathered the documents she needed. Not forged documents. Those were only bait. She carried the real evidence. The recordings, the photos, the emails, the timestamps, the signatures. Her weapon wasn't a gun or a threat. Her weapon was truth. At 9:14 a.m., she arrived at the building. The glass doors reflected her image back at her, not as a wife walking in, but as a woman walking toward justice. She went straight to the board secretary, tapped lightly on the desk, and spoke in a calm voice. "I need an emergency meeting today. All members. Full attendance." The secretary blinked. "Ma'am, only Daniel has the authority to." Emily slid a flash drive across the desk. "Schedule the meeting," she said quietly. The woman plugged it in, and her eyes widened. She didn't say another word. The meeting was set for 11 a.m. sharp. Perfect. Meanwhile, Rachel was already in Daniel's office. Emily watched from the parking lot through the live feed. Rachel was pacing fast, gripping her phone, her face glowing with greed. She had received the forged final contract last night and thought she was moments away from millions. "Come on, Daniel," she muttered. "Sign the final paperwork. Stonebridge wants confirmation." She wasn't even pretending to hide her intentions anymore. She was too close to the dream she had built on lies. At 10:02 a.m., Daniel entered the office. "Rachel, what's going on?" he asked, rubbing his eyes. Rachel shoved the papers in his hands. "This is our future," she whispered. "Sign it. Now." Daniel looked confused. "I never agreed to." Rachel grabbed his face sharply. Emily watched the moment. Anger crawled up her spine like fire. Rachel hissed, "Stop thinking. Do what I say. You owe me." Daniel's face fell. And in that exact moment, Emily understood something. Daniel wasn't evil. He wasn't cruel. He was weak. Weak enough to be controlled, weak enough to be manipulated, weak enough to be ruined. But today, everything was ending. For him. For her. For all of them. Emily stepped out of the car and walked into the building. At 10:58 a.m., the boardroom was full. Men and women in suits whispered among themselves. Why did Emily call this meeting? Where is Daniel? What's happening? Emily stood at the head of the long table, calm, composed, and terrifyingly silent. At exactly 11 a.m., the door opened. Daniel walked in first, confused. Behind him, Rachel entered, smiling like she had already won. She was wearing a bright red dress, too bold, too loud, too proud. Emily didn't look at either of them. She simply pressed a button on the remote in her hand. The lights dimmed. The projector hummed. The first recording appeared on the screen. Rachel's voice filled the room. "Tell your buyer we'll have the product ready. Daniel trusts me. He always does." The board fell silent. Daniel turned pale. Rachel froze. Emily didn't blink. She pressed the button again. A second clip played. "This deal is huge. Once it's done, we don't need Daniel anymore." Murmurs erupted. Faces twisted in shock. Someone gasped loudly. Daniel staggered backward. "Rachel, what is this?" Rachel's eyes darted around the room. Stop this," she stuttered. "This isn't real." Emily pressed the button again. The screen showed Rachel signing. Rachel Whitman, co-owner of Sunrise Development. A forged claim. A fake title. A felony. Rachel's breath hitched. This is taken out of context." Emily finally looked at her. "No," she said quietly. "This is you, Rachel. Every second of it." The next clip began. Rachel whispering. "And once everything crashes, Daniel takes the blame. Not me." The board exploded. Someone yelled, "Is this true?" Another shouted, "Call legal." A third demanded, "Who authorized this woman access to the office?" Rachel snapped. She lunged at Daniel, grabbing his shirt. "You idiot," she screamed. "I told you to hide everything. I told you to delete the messages. You ruined this." Emily stepped forward, her voice cold. "He didn't ruin anything. I watched everything you did. Every message. Every photograph. Every deal. Every threat." Rachel's face twisted. You did this," she hissed. Emily's smile was small and lethal. "You hid recorders behind paintings. So I put cameras inside them." The entire room froze. Daniel whispered, "Emily, you knew?" Emily turned her eyes to him. "I knew everything." Before anyone could speak again, the doors burst open. Police entered the boardroom. "We have warrants for Daniel Turner and Rachel Whitman." Daniel collapsed into a chair. Rachel tried to run. Two officers tackled her instantly. Emily watched without emotion as Rachel screamed. "She planned this. She tricked me. She framed me. Arrest her. The officer responded calmly. Ma'am, every piece of evidence points to you. Rachel's last scream echoed across the room as she was dragged away. Daniel reached out a trembling hand toward Emily. Emily, please. I didn't know. Emily stepped back. You didn't want to know. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She didn't touch him. She let silence destroy him instead. Because silence was the revenge he earned. The boardroom emptied slowly, leaving only silence and the ghosts of shattered reputations. Emily stood alone for a moment, breathing in the stillness. This room had once belonged to her husband. His power, his pride, his identity. But today, the walls had spoken. And they spoke her truth. Daniel was escorted out in handcuffs. He didn't fight. He didn't argue. He only looked back at Emily with hollow eyes. Eyes of a man who finally realized the cost of secrets. Rachel was already screaming in the hallway as officers dragged her toward the elevator. Her red dress, once a symbol of confidence, now looked like a warning sign. She clawed at the walls, at the officers, at anything that would stop her fall. You can't do this to me, she screeched. I built this. I deserve it. She set me up. Emily walked past her. Not slowly. Not dramatically. Just calmly. Rachel reached out, grabbing Emily's arm with desperate strength. You planned this, she snarled. You evil witch. You planned all of this. Emily looked at her, eyes steady, voice flat. No. Rachel. You did this. I only pressed play. Rachel's grip loosened. And for the first time, fear replaced her arrogance. Emily didn't glance back as Rachel was dragged away. The next morning, news broke everywhere. Corporate espionage scandal at Turner Holdings. CEO and mistress arrested in major conspiracy. Hidden recorders found inside office paintings. Reporters gathered outside the courthouse like vultures searching for fresh wounds. Emily walked through them without flinching. She wore a simple black coat. No makeup. No jewelry. Just truth. An officer escorted her inside. She didn't need protection, but they insisted. She had become a key witness, a woman who had uncovered a multimillion-dollar scheme with nothing but intelligence and patience. In the courtroom, Daniel sat at the defendant's table, wrists cuffed. He looked smaller than Emily had ever seen him, his shoulders slumped, his eyes red, his confidence gone. He looked like a man who had finally met the end of his own lies. Across from him, Rachel sat rigid, hair messy, eyeliner smeared. She glared at Emily with silent hatred. Rachel's children waited in the hallway with social care workers, unaware of how deep their mother's crimes ran. The judge entered. Everyone rose. Emily felt the moment settle around her like a heavy crown. Court is now in session. The prosecution began with the recordings. Clip after clip played on the monitor. Every lie. Every plan. Every whisper of betrayal. Members of the court stared with open mouths as Rachel's voice echoed through the room. Daniel takes the blame. Not me. We'll disappear once I get the money. He's too blind to see the trap. Daniel lowered his head every time his name left Rachel's mouth. Shame clung to him like smoke. Rachel slammed her fist on the table. These are edited, she screamed. She manipulated everything. The prosecutor raised a brow. Mrs. Turner installed the cameras after discovering your devices. Evidence shows your recorders were active for months. The room gasped. Rachel turned pale. The prosecutor continued. The defendant illegally placed recording devices in a corporate office, stole confidential files, signed false ownership claims, and conspired with an outside buyer. He turned toward Emily. Mrs. Turner, please confirm, was your husband aware of the devices? Emily stood slowly. The courtroom held its breath. She spoke with the calm of a woman who had already survived the worst. No, she said. He wasn't aware. He was manipulated. He was used. But he allowed her access. He allowed her influence. He allowed the secrets to grow. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. Emily didn't look at him. The prosecutor nodded. Thank you. By afternoon, the judge made his ruling. He spoke with precision, each word heavy, final. Rachel Whitman, you are found guilty of corporate espionage, fraud, conspiracy to defraud investors, and unlawful surveillance. You are sentenced to 9 years in federal prison. Rachel collapsed, screaming as officers restrained her. No, no. She did this. She destroyed me. Emily didn't flinch. Some storms are meant to be watched quietly. The judge turned to Daniel. Daniel Turner, you are found guilty of negligence in security, breach of fiduciary duty, and enabling unauthorized access to classified material. Due to evidence of manipulation, your sentence is reduced. Daniel closed his eyes, bracing himself. You are sentenced to 2 years and mandatory corporate surrender. Daniel bowed his head. He didn't cry. He just whispered, Emily, I'm sorry. Emily didn't respond. The judge continued. As part of the restitution, full operational authority of Turner Holdings is granted to Emily Turner. A gasp spread through the courtroom. Emily's breath caught for a moment, but only for a moment. She whispered under her breath, It's done. As Rachel was dragged out, she locked eyes with Emily one last time. You took everything from me. Emily stepped closer, voice soft, deadly. You tried to destroy my family. You used your child's paintings to commit crimes. You thought I was weak. She leaned in. You were wrong. Rachel screamed as she was pulled away. Emily didn't watch. She simply walked out of the courtroom. Straight into her husband's company. Straight into her revenge. Straight into her new life. The courthouse steps felt heavier than any ground Emily had ever walked on, but not from fear. From victory. Flashlights burst in every direction as reporters swarmed her. Mrs. Turner. Did you know about the affair? Did you expect Rachel to be convicted? Do you believe Daniel deserves prison time? What will happen to Turner Holdings now? Emily did not stop. She did not answer. She did not look at any of them. She walked straight through the noise, straight through the chaos, straight through the storm she herself had created. Calm, steady, and cold. Outside, the wind blew her hair back like she was stepping into a new life. And she was. 3 days later, Emily returned to the building that once belonged to Daniel Turner. It no longer recognized him. Now it belonged to her. Security guards opened the door with new respect. Good morning, Mrs. Turner. Welcome, Mrs. Turner. Congratulations, Mrs. Turner. She nodded politely, but her mind was elsewhere. Today, she was walking toward the final step of her revenge. Toward the office where it all began. The office where Rachel hid her crimes. Where Daniel hid his guilt. Where Emily hid her cameras. Where the truth hid behind paint and canvas. She reached the top floor. The hallway was silent. She pushed open the door to Daniel's old office, now hers. The sunlight hit the room differently today. The paintings on the wall glowed softly. They no longer felt like weapons. They no longer felt like memories. They felt like trophies. Emily walked in slowly, running her fingers along the conference table, feeling the weight of the past month sit lightly on her shoulders now. She stood in front of the painting that started everything, the one with the crooked orange sun and the childish house Lily had drawn. She whispered, You were never just a painting. Then she carefully removed it from the wall. Behind it, Rachel's illegal recorder still sat, dusty and dead. Below it, Emily's hidden camera still blinked silently. 2 crimes. 2 lies. 2 women. 1 winner. She removed both devices and placed them on the table. Then she took her seat in Daniel's old leather chair. Her chair now. She leaned back, breathing in the moment. The door opened behind her. Daniel stepped inside. He wasn't handcuffed. He hadn't started his sentence yet. He was out on temporary release to arrange personal affairs. His eyes were tired. His hair was messy. His hands shook slightly as he approached her. "Emily," he whispered. "Please. I just want to talk." She didn't stand. She didn't greet him. She didn't soften. "Talk," she said. Daniel swallowed. I didn't know she was doing all that. I thought she cared about me." Emily stared at him. No pity. No love. No hate. Just understanding. A cold understanding. "You thought she cared," Emily repeated. "And what about me?" Daniel's eyes filled. "I was stupid. I was lonely. I was wrong. I'm sorry, Emily. I'm so sorry." Emily turned her eyes away. "Sorry," she said. "You weren't sorry when you were lying. When you were hiding things. When you were sneaking around behind my back." He stepped closer. "Please, can we try again? Can we fix this?" Emily's laugh was quiet and sharp. "Fix," she said. "You don't fix broken glass, Daniel. You sweep it up and throw it away." Daniel froze. Her words hit harder than a slap. She stood, walked past him, and opened the door. "Your sentence starts in 2 days, she said calmly. "I hope you use the time to think." He turned to her with trembling lips. "Do you hate me?" Emily paused. Then she said the truest words of the entire story. "I don't hate you. I don't feel anything at all." She closed the door gently, shutting him out of the office, out of her company, out of her life. Daniel's footsteps faded down the hall. Emily returned to her chair. This time, she didn't sit like a wife. She didn't sit like a victim. She didn't sit like someone recovering. She sat like someone who had won. A week later, the board gathered to officially welcome her as the new CEO of Turner Holdings. The room was bright, polished, expensive. But Emily looked past all of it. She stared at the empty seat where Daniel once sat. The seat where Rachel once stood pretending to be powerful. Now, it belonged to her. She placed the old painting, the one that held the recorder, on a stand behind her chair. Not as decoration. As a reminder. A board member cleared his throat. "Emily, would you like to say anything before we begin?" Emily looked at them all. Her voice was calm. Her expression steady. Her presence powerful. She said, "Some paintings tell stories." She paused. Then added, with quiet fire, "Yours ended here." The room fell silent. The story was complete. Emily Turner, once a quiet, ignored wife, had become the woman who outsmarted the mistress, outplayed the husband, defeated the conspiracy, and walked into power without breaking a sweat. Her revenge wasn't loud. It was perfect. It was final. It was hers. And the office, once filled with secrets, belonged to the woman who ended every lie with the truth. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy the story, please hit the like button, subscribe, and click the bell icon. Comment below for more stories like this. Your support means the world to us.